Hi everybody, this is the Photoshop Workbench. I'm Mark Johnson. Thanks for joining me. We live in a remarkable time. The internet gives us immediate access to nearly unlimited knowledge and inspiration with a tap of just a few keys. I regularly find myself scouring the sites of great artists and photographers seeking the next spark. On a recent search, I stumbled across a mesmerizing image created by Nicole of French Kiss Collections that appeared to be part watercolor painting and part pencil sketch. After reading her blog post about the effect, I set out to reproduce one of my own. In today's tutorial, I'd like to share what I discovered with you. So this is the look that we're going for, and you can see this is kind of a pencil sketch around the edges here, and then it fades into a watercolor effect right here. So to accomplish this, we are going to be using primarily Photoshop, but we are also going to tap a little bit into Filter Forge, and I am going to mention some other plugins, and at the end of this tutorial I'll even show you some of the other effects that I was able to achieve using the other plugins. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to begin with a very simple, plain texture that is light in color. So this particular texture is from the French Kiss collection called Tableau Painterly, and this texture is called Creme Fraiche. I love that name. By the way, if you are interested in French Kiss textures, you can get a 15% discount. I have all of the information you need about French Kiss and the discount in the text associated with today's tutorial. So now what we want to do is import a photo. So I have an image right here of, and I hope I don't butcher this, I think it's Neuschwanstein Castle. I believe this is in Germany. This image is going to work really nicely because it has a lot of edge detail, and images that have a lot of edge detail are going to work really well. These trees right here, the edges of the castle, this is all going to work beautifully with this effect. So we want to import this into the texture, and I'm just going to use the drag and drop technique. So I have the move tool here. I'll press shift and I'll drag this over and then drop it right in. Now, if you're in tabbed viewing mode, which is Photoshop's default behavior, you're going to need to drag your image. You'll be in a tab here. You're going to drag your image from one tab to the other tab of the texture document and then down onto the texture itself, and that's going to drop it in. So just a little extra step there if you choose that approach. So we have this image imported. We want to make sure that it fits well. In this case, it's exactly the same size as the underlying texture, but if it isn't, you can always choose Edit, Free Transform, and you can go in there and scale it. Just remember to grab a corner handle and hold the Shift key so that you scale proportionately. All right, now we are going to turn this particular layer here into a beautiful pencil sketch right here inside of Photoshop. So we're going to duplicate this color image with a Command or Control J. All right, now we're going to take this duplicate and convert it to black and white by choosing Image, Adjustments, Black and White. All right, and you could play around with this right here, but I don't think it's very important, so just go ahead and leave it set to default and press OK. Now we're going to duplicate the black and white layer with another Command or Control J. And let's invert this by choosing Image, Adjustments, Invert, or Command or Control I to invert this layer. Now we're going to change the blend mode now to color dodge, and when we do this, you're going to notice that your image appears to just disappear. That's great. That's going to allow us to accomplish what we need to do next. So we're going to go ahead and change the mode here from normal to color dodge. All right, it has temporarily disappeared. No sweat. We're going to convert it to a smart object because we're about to run a filter on it, and we want to do this non-destructively. So we'll choose Filter, Convert for Smart Filters. And now we're going to choose Filter, Other, Minimum. And we're going to play around with the minimum filter with the radius right here until we have a great looking piece of line art. In this relatively low res document, I think I'm at about 2,000 pixels or so, something around 1 or, and I'm just using the up arrow key with this field highlighted. 3 gets a little bit too intense for me, so I think 1 or 2 is going to work really great on this lower res document. If you go with a higher res document, you may want to go with 2, 3, or 4 pixels. Just look at the image at 50% or 100% magnification. If you like the way it looks, then it's beautiful. Go ahead and preserve squareness and click OK. So we have a nice looking piece of line art. I'm going to zoom it to 100%. You can see all the great detail in here. Really beautiful detail. Excellent looking line art right here, just using Photoshop's filters. Now, I do want to mention that Topaz Labs has a plugin called Adjust. Again, I have a link to the Topaz products and a 15% discount listed in the text associated with this tutorial. If you use Topaz Labs Adjust, I'm going to recommend go into the Stylized collection and use the filter called Sketch-Pencil. Sketch-Pencil. And then go into the detail zone on the right hand panel and crank up the detail boost big time, and then crank up the strength just a little tiny bit, and that's going to give you a great looking pencil sketch in Topaz. So I will show you what that looks like again at the end of this tutorial, so you can see all of the different things I tried out, and Leslie tried out when she wrote her blog post. A lot of different options for creating different looks. So really here, creativity, the sky is the limit with this. All right, so we have our pencil sketch. If we want to bring back a little bit of detail here, we can reduce the opacity of this layer by scrubby sliding over the word opacity, just like this. And I'm going to go with something right around 80%. I think that's looking really great. Let's get these layers grouped right here before there's any confusion. So I've got this top layer active. I'm going to shift click on not the texture layer but the bottommost castle layer here. These are my 3 pencil sketch layers, and I'm going to press Command or Control G, and that's going to put them in a group. I'll go ahead and name this just to keep it from getting confusing, pencil sketch. There we go. Now I'm going to change the blend mode of this group from pass through to multiply, and that's going to pop through some of this beautiful texture on the base layer here. If I zoom that up, you can see there's the wonderful texture right there. It's already looking, I think, just gorgeous. We could practically stop here if we wanted, but we're going to keep going. Now we are going to do some creative masking, and in order to accomplish this, we're going to use some high-res watercolor brushes. Now these brushes are free, and there's a link to these brushes associated with the introduction or introductory text. So it'll take you right where you need to go. I've already downloaded them. When you download them and unzip them, put them into a unique brushes folder on your hard drive, not into the Photoshop brushes folder, and into a subfolder that calls them either watercolor brushes or paint brushes, painting brushes, something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and load these up. I'll click here on the brush tool, and I'm going to go over to the options bar, and in this flyout right here, I'm going to load brushes, and I want to load up, you can see I've got a brushes folder, a subfolder called paint, and this set of brushes, when you download them, they're called high-res watercolor Photoshop brushes, but the actual ABR file, which is the brushes file, is called McBad. I don't know what that means, but here it is. I'm going to press open, and now you can see I have a bunch of watercolor brushes right here at the bottom of this panel. So I want to paint with those. I'm going to add a black filled mask to this pencil sketch group, and that's going to temporarily hide it. So I'll hold Option, Alt on a PC, and click on the front loading washer to add a mask. Now I've got the brush. I want to be painting with white, the opposite of the black here. 100% opacity and flow, and I'm going to go find a good brush to paint with. And really there are a lot of good ones in here, so I'm going to go ahead and try maybe this one. And I'll collapse that. I'm going to make it bigger by tapping the right bracket key, and then I'm going to click right down here, just like this. Now I'm going to go get another brush, say 491, and I'm going to make it bigger with the right bracket key. Gee, I wish that were flipped, so what I'm going to do is go into the brush panel, which you can find listed alphabetically under Window here, and I'm going to flip it on the X-axis, just like that. Okay, and now we'll paint right down here. Then I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm just dabbing with these brushes, making them bigger with the right bracket, and then just dabbing away, getting different looks here. Hit that one right there again. Let's go with this one. You're going to want to try different brushes, a lot of different brushes, and you're going to want to move through here and just dab and click and see what happens. If you don't like something, then you can Command or Control Z to undo it. Just click around there a few times. And I'm going to continue to do this for another moment here. Bring in a little bit more detail. I'm going to flip that around again, so I'll go back into the brush panel and I'll flip it on the Y-axis this time. And then let's see, maybe let's go back to this one for a moment. Not bad. I undid that last click, just didn't like the way that looked at all. Alright, so now we've got some nice looking, I'll undo that one. I think we've got some nice looking edges here, kind of creative edges. Alright, that's looking good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add a layer that's going to be a watercolor layer. Now, I have tried and I've tried again with Photoshop's watercolor filter. There's one built in here in the filter gallery. And I just cannot seem to fall in love with it no matter how much I try. So I found much better watercolor effects out there, and the very best ones I found are part of Filter Forge. Filter Forge is software. Some people call it a plugin. I don't use it as a plugin. I use it as a standalone application. And I do have, again on my discounts page, and there's a link to this in the text associated with this tutorial, I do have a 50% discount on Filter Forge. So it's a nice big discount. You can use my coupon code. Of course, you can download the free trial and just play around with that. But there are two filters in Filter Forge that I just love. One is called HDR and the other one is called Watercolor Painting, and it's by somebody called Kachubi. Those are two that I just love. In fact, let me just show you here real quickly. So actually, here's Paint. Okay, so this is Paint HDR right here. You can see the look that I get. That's just the first preset here. And then the Watercolor Painting by Kachubi is this one that you see right here. I love both of these. And again, at the end of this tutorial, I'll show you both of them blended in here. But if you want to learn how to use Filter Forge, then I have several free tutorials that are part of the membership. Actually, I think they may even be free to the public. Photoshop Workbench 280, again, there's a link to that in my introductory text. That will give you some great tips about using Filter Forge. If you really want to dive into Filter Forge, I have a premium video tutorial series called Maximum Creativity with Filter Forge and Photoshop, and that one is in my store, and there's a link to it as well. So I'm not going to go through the whole process of using Filter Forge, but suffice to say, I have used it to create the image that you see right here, this watercolor look that you see right here. A couple of comments about Filter Forge that are very important to know is you cannot open PSD files into Filter Forge, so you have to open TIFFs or JPEGs in there before you apply the watercolor or the painterly effect to them. And you're going to find that render time can be quite slow on certain filters, including the Paint HD Artist one. I think that one's very slow. The watercolor painting one is it's not fast, but it's faster. So here is my document. This is what I saved out of Filter Forge using the Save Image As command that you see right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and import this into this document right here. Again, I've got the Move tool. I'll hold the Shift key and drag it right on over just like that. And we can get this one out of here. All right, so this is really my watercolor layer. So I'll go ahead and name it that. If I can type, there we go. And we want to do the same thing with this that we did with the pencil sketch layer below. So we are going to add a black filled mask by Option or Alt clicking here. Then we're going to go use white and the brush tool, and we're going to work through different brushes right here. I really like some of these. Let's see, where are the ones I like most? I really like this 483 as a starting point. Let me go ahead and flip that. So I'll go into the brush panel, and I want to flip it on both Y and X axis. See how that, oh, that's just beautiful. Oh, I love this. I love it when things just come together. Yeah, these are looking great. We're going to make a few modifications to these masks, I can tell you that right now. They're looking a little bit too pale. Let me flip that one around. You won't be able to see this because I'm just working fast at this point. Let me go. There we go. I'm actually not going to use that. I don't like the look of it after examining it there. That one's pretty beautiful. Okay, let's see. What other ones do I think will work? And you're really just going to want to experiment. Play around with all this stuff. And play around with the filters you include too. You don't have to put a watercolor inside a pencil sketch. You could put something else, some other look, as I will demo here in just a bit. That's looking pretty good, I think. But here's something I want to do. Let me turn that layer off for a moment. I'm going to go to the mask. So I'm Option or Alt clicking on the mask for the pencil sketch. If I feel like the pencil sketch is too faint right there, what I can do is with the mask active, I can choose Image Adjustments, and then I can go to Levels. And if I move this slider here, see how it's making that all more pronounced? So I'm going to move that in and make it a little more pronounced. So I went from here to here. Now on the color one, I'm going to, again, you can Option or Alt click and see the mask. I've got it active. I'll choose Image Adjustments, Levels, or Command or Control L. And then I'll drag this in. And I kind of like a more pale look there, but I want to go to about there. And I like that. Look at the way this all just sort of blends together. It looks like you come from pencil sketch into watercolor painting very beautifully. If you find that the bottom edge of this is a little too harsh, with that mask active, what you can do is grab the lasso tool, and you can lasso around this bottom edge just like this, and then you can choose Select, Modify, Feather. You can feather it by, let's say, 25 pixels should be good. I'm going to hide it with Command or Control H, and now I'm going to choose Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And when I come in here and play around with this, you can see it blends that edge a little more nicely. So here's no blur, and here's some blur to blend it in. And again, that's a matter of personal preference, but it's nice to be able to blend that edge right there. Really beautiful effect. So now another way of getting a watercolor effect is using Topaz Labs Impression plugin. Again, I have a discount and a link in the introductory text for Impression. I love Impression. I think it's amazing. Best painterly plugin out there, except I don't love its watercolor filters. They're good. They're not great, but they have some other amazing filters in there. So I said I would show you. See if I can find the right document here. That isn't it. I said I would show you, boy, hopefully third time's a charm. There we go. Some other looks here. So when I was building this, I actually created lots of different looks. So this will allow us to see them, their names. So right here, this is the Filter Forge Paint HD Artist and the Photoshop Pencil Sketch. That's the combination we just worked on. Let me show you some other watercolor effects. This is Filter Forge Watercolor Painting by Kachubi. Also stunning, I think. Love that. This is Topaz Labs Adjust plugin. It's something called HDR Sketch Light. Not bad. Not bad at all right there. Here's Topaz Labs Impression plugin, and this is called Watercolor 1. Don't like that as much. Here's their Simplify plugin, and this is called Buzz Sim. That's fair. And this is also the Topaz Simplify plugin called Watercolor 2. So really, if I had to pick my favorites, it would be the Filter Forge Paint HD Artist, the Filter Forge Watercolor Painting by Kachubi, and the Topaz Labs Adjust plugin HDR Sketch Light Effect. I like those. So then let's go down and look at different pencil sketch effects. So here's Topaz Labs Adjust plugin. This one's called Sketch Dash Pencil. This is one I mentioned earlier. That's not bad. Here's Topaz Labs Impression. This one's called Sketch Work 3. Here's another one from Impression. This is Soft Sketch 3. We have a Photoshop Pencil Sketch. This one I used a Gaussian blur effect instead of the minimum. It's the exact same process, but instead of running the minimum filter at the end, you run Gaussian blur. I don't like it that much, though. So anyway, a lot of options here. This is just a handful of what you could do with this effect. And really creating that beautiful border, that all comes thanks to being able to use these marvelous watercolor brushes that are free. Thank you. And you'll find those on the Brush Easy site. So this brings to a conclusion our Photoshop Workbench. It's such a pleasure to have folks out there who are interested in, passionate about creating beautiful art. Thank you so much for being members, and thanks so much for watching these tutorials. I love to hear your feedback, by the way, so never hesitate to give me feedback on the tutorials. Take care. Bye-bye.